Listen to the radio, Harry and Edna's Wireless Show. You heard it from the Three Bells.
What-o, Harry?
And what-o, Edna. And welcome to Harry and Edna on the Wireless, as we broadcast probably, I think, from the storeroom.
What-ho?
And welcome to Harry and Edna on the Wireless, where we take you by the hand and have a little trip into the current UK vintage scene. And today we've got a cracking interview with burlesque performer Mamma Jenufa. Now, if you follow your soap operas from back in the 90s and maybe even in the 80s.
80s, yeah.
Was it 80s? Mm. She, one of her most popular characters that she portrays in a burlesque style is Pat Butcher. Pat. That's from a TV show called EastEnders. I don't know if it's available to our American chums. Probably on BBC America or something.
Yeah. But I'm sure you can watch it again on some of the internet telly. They're rerunning some of the old episodes.
They are here in the UK, most certainly they are. Anyway,
Harry, why did you refer to the fact we were sitting in a storeroom?
Do you not can't work it out?
I can now,
you're so far away from your microphone because there is boxes and stuff, for want of a better word, between you and said microphone.
I am, and I'm sitting here in a most unglamorous pair of painted trousers and painty fleece.
Yeah, it's a bit of a homage to places you have worked, because it's all ex-uniforms from various working organisations.
So I'm sitting behind a box, leaning over to use the microphone, because currently the studio is a / storeroom for all the bits we've moved out of the hallway, isn't it, really? And, the hallway.
Yeah, so my precious area gets invaded on a regular basis, and I'm sharing the mixing desk with masking tape, sandpaper, a very old Bakelite telephone.
And bits of door furniture, and sitting in a box in the corner of the room is our new toilet and sink. Victorian, high-top flush toilet.
I was going to tell people about that.
Yeah.
Because if you follow us on the old Instagram, where Harry and Edna Presents on Instagram, I did a picture, said, guess what Edna's been buying? Because this thing appeared. And most people said it was a Dalek, and I haven't actually told people what it was.
Well, it was, yeah. It arrived on a pallet, and it had this black shrink wrap all over it, didn't it? And it did look like we'd taken delivery of a Dalek. It's
very tall and a bit out in the middle. Yeah, so Davros came to stay, which Madame Jenufa should do a Dalek burlesque show. I reckon there's a whole new option,
whole act in there.
Whole action.
There you go, listeners. You can have that one for free from Harry.
Actually, talking of burlesque, if you listen to some of our reruns, you'll remember we had Candy Kisses on the show, and one of the things she could do in a tank of water was be a mermaid.
Is it?
Yeah, I remember. You interviewed her.
Oh, I didn't quite remember that.
She made an impression, didn't she?
She did. Lots of different ways.
She's not listening. Anyway, the reason I said that, tenuous link here, this is the Mermaid song by Cab Calloway.
Clever.
Yeah, you see, a bit of thought goes into these shows.
What-ho?
Now, we said we got Madame Jenufa on the show. Now, have you squeezed her into a tea chest amongst all this paint and other decoration material?
I think it's fair, we should admit, shouldn't we, that no, we haven't got her here, have we?
No, we haven't. We recorded this interview a little while ago using our good friend Seclo 105 FM in Milton Keynes. We used their studio. Yes,
when we were last up in Milton Keynes.
And because she's very proud, she's from Buckinghamshire. Is Mama. So
yeah, I remember it was a very funny interview, wasn't it? I think there's a treat coming up.
You're going to learn a lot about how to do burlesque. If you always have this image that burlesque performers look like Dieter Von Teese.
Can be all shapes and sizes, and that really is the part of the performance.
Including a hexagon.
Including a hexagon or a triangle. Whatever your shape and size. What we're trying to say is you're not pigeonholed to a particular look and style when you're burlesque dancing.
Burlesque is not triangulist.
It's not, but it's a very clever art form, and I think that's what I mean when I was getting a bit defensive about not anyone can walk off the street. Obviously, it takes a little bit of practice, and you've got to get your act right.
You say that, but if you you weren't around in the heady days of the 1970s, which apparently is vintage. When the punk scene came along, what was classed to be important was you just got up on stage and you did it.
Right.
That was the very important thing.
Okay.
Don't wait for someone else to do something. Get up there and do it yourself.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, were you?
See, deep down, I'm still a little bit of a Sid
punk.
Vicious at heart.
I know, with your Fraggle Rock haircut.
Well, my hair
and
is
your
no longer...
lace that you had.
No, that was later. I haven't got the Fraggle Rock haircut on top of my head now. It's sort of growing out the sides.
You're going for the Victorian gentleman look with your mutton chops and moustache.
I'm modelling myself on Mr. Holmes's assistant.
Watson,
that's it. If you ever look at those TV shows.
The old 70s versions of Victorian Sherlock Holmes.
Why does he change, Watson?
Yeah, he does. Certainly the more modern one, he doesn't look anything like a mutton-chopped Victorian gentleman. Not that I would, that's my opinion.
He hasn't got the Amos Brillies.
I don't think he has. No, he's not. He's clean-shaven, I'm sure.
That's not right for
No,
Victorians.
I thought Victorian men, facial hair was the thing.
Well, of course. One has to do interesting things with one's
facial hair
and shrubbery.
Just to prove that
face.
you can, is it?
Pretty much.
Sculpting your face in different ways. Nice.
Now, because Mamma Jenufa, that's it, get it right, is actually on tape, because we recorded these at our good friends, Seclo 105, you're going to dash back out to do some more painting while these interviews are playing. And why do you have to go back?
Well, our two young boys are currently painting out there at the moment, and it's getting a bit heated, so I should nip out and just keep an eye and make sure they've painted the right thing.
You said last time we went back to Milton Keynes, we went back to see some of our old friends. And do you remember one of them had staple gunned the other one to the
or one of them staple gun our son to her because they thought it'd be funny, and then they realised it actually hurts. As boys do, you've got to try these things.
So is that why you have to go back?
I should just go and, oversee.
Well, although you won't be here, we will be in...
I'll be here before the end. I'll be back before the end.
You'll be here, actually, in the next track, because you'll be there chatting to Mamma Jenufa.
Yeah.
Straight after Chick Webb and If Dreams Come True.
What ho?
So, yes, welcome to the show, Mamma Jenufa, or should we call you Mamma?
Call me Mama, that's fine.
Okay, can you describe yourself as a blossoming buxom burlesque performer?
It was from Bucks as well, was the last B on that alliteration tangle. So, yes, that is me, that is I.
So, a blossoming buxom burlesque performer based in Bucks.
Indeed, yes, that's me.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, why you... Well, let's start with what do you do? Is burlesque performing, I understand?
Yes, I would describe myself as a amateur burlesque performer. I don't do it as a full-time job. I just do it as a very involved and enriched hobby, but I take it very, very seriously.
Yeah.
I perform burlesque. I take my clothes off to music in a jauntily and hopefully comedic fashion, and that's me basically.
Brilliant. So when you say you're an amateur burlesque performer, is that because you don't do it as a full-time career? That's sort of why you describe it as amateur?
Yeah, pretty much. That's on the head. Within burlesque, there are sort of many sort of circles and levels of experience, and there is a massive sort of amateur scene which thrives, and there are amateur nights which are sort of less to pay to get in, but the acts are, still fun and dynamic and tantalising. And obviously there's the pro girls that's what they do for their jobs, and they work incredibly hard, travelling constantly, living out of a suitcase, incredibly skilled and brilliant girls, but yeah, that's what they are. But I am on the other.
And then do you get to the sort of Dita Von Teese top of the pile?
Then you get to the queens. Yes. You have Dita and Catherine Delish and Immodesty Blaze, who is our sort of UK queen. But there are many. But yes, Dita is obviously the most
well known, I guess,
throughout the world. I would imagine. So yeah.
I just love the names. You guys make up your own names, do you?
Yes. Often people go on to the Ministry of Burlesque, which is an online forum for burlesque performers and aficionados. And most people do ask for a bit of advice on names, because whatever you think of, there will be about 5 other girls out there.
Really?
Misses and cherries and rouges are quite popular. But yes, you need to sort of think up your own name, but always check that no one else has got it first.
Okay, so they don't have a cache of names. You can go, I like that one, I'll take that one.
Well, on the site there is actually a name generator. You can just click a button and it will come up with it. But as to their sort of level of authenticity and the way they sound, I can't really, I can't sort of say on that one really. But yes, there are various methods of choosing your name.
What ho?
What got you into burlesque performing then? Is it something that you've always been interested in? Do you perform and you sort of found your route into burlesque, or was it a sort of a definite path you went down?
It was more, I think it was perhaps an accumulation of sort of a few avenues. To start off with, in around about 2007, I started to go into burlesque shows, and it did take me a good 2 years to decide until I actually wanted to perform. And I think that was perhaps driven by the love of the aesthetic and the glamour and the drama that you perceive to see when you actually are getting changed in the toilet in a pub. It's quite different. But it the burlesque, even as an audience member, sort of filled my love of sort of pageantry and dressing up. When I was a teenager, I was a goth, and loved dressing up, and I loved my corsets, and I loved fascinators and dyeing my hair stupid colours, and I loved dressing up, and I loved being a spectacle, so it fed that area for me as well. I also had a background in fine arts, and although I was predominantly a 2D artist, I loved performance art and just didn't quite have the oomph to go and do it myself. So I think perhaps burlesque is like a mix of those sort of avenues that kind of ticked my boxes, so to speak. So
you have to be incredibly brave, don't you, to get up on stage and perform? Or is it sort of because, I mean, we've spoken to artists before, and they've said, you put the makeup on, you put the clothes on, and you can become somebody else almost.
Yes.
And is it that?
Absolutely. I mean, it does. That's certainly part of it. If I sort of went on and they introduced me on my normal name, and I'm wearing my jeans and pushing my buggy like I do, 7 days of the week, I perhaps wouldn't be as flamboyant or happy to do it. So yes, the name and the persona does come into it, but also behind any act, you've got a good sort of 2, maybe more if you're well planned, months of rehearsal, conceptually thinking about things, sketching it down, so that all sort of builds into to going there. But it is still nerve-wracking. You do still get that little bit of a flutter, but backstage when you're with other lovely performers, you kind of boost each other up a bit, and you still might get a bit of collywobble. So the first few seconds, I know I do, I feel my chest going, but then I'm like, right, and then I'm okay, the hands stop shaking, but I do still get that initially for a few seconds. So
oh, cool. Well, we'll come back to Mamma.
What ho?
I also enjoy listening to Mamma Jenufa, and there is more Mamma coming after I play a bit of Riptide by the wonderful Eddie Dutchin. However, what I thought I might talk to you about is you can listen to this show over and over again. Of course, listening to it on the radio is by far the most exciting and wonderful way to listen to the show. But if you want to hear it over and over again, or indeed any of our previous shows, because they're all there available to listen to, just go to harryandedna.co.uk and you can click and listen to all the shows. They're all there on Mixcloud streaming. And if you wanted to download said show, well, you can do. We have podcasts that you can download, but these are, for contractual reasons, just the speech element. So if you're listening to this and all you're hearing is every now and again you think there should be a music track and you hear a what-o, that's actually the podcast version you're listening to, which is purely speech. If you want to listen to the full musical version as we intended you to hear it, just go harryandedna.co.uk and you can listen to the listen again option, which has all the music as we hoped to. Now, young Edna is actually still in our hallway trying to unpeel the youngest son, who seems to have managed to somehow super glue himself to the wall. So while she unpeels him, I'm going to play young Eddie Dutchin, as I said, and then we'll have a couple more interviews with Mamma, and then if we've managed to get youngest son off the wall and unpeeled, you'll hear young Edna back in the studio. Well, that's the theory anyway.
What
And welcome back, Mamma.
Hello, hello.
We were just talking about, last time we spoke, about going onto stage and performing as a burlesque dancer. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you start out as a burlesque dancer? Do you sort of practice at home and then say, right, I'm going to go to a show? And is it a bit like, Harry, what's that ITV series where with Simon Cowell? What's it called?
I was thinking of Opportunity Not.
No, I was thinking more kind of Simon Cowell, judges panel.
Pop Idol, Dancing on Stars,
that
Made
kind
Famous, The Voice.
Yeah,
Jesus Superstar on Ice.
Yeah. Is it a bit like that? Do you have a panel of judges who judge you or kind of give you advice on how to perfect your performance?
There are a variety of routes. Myself, I decided I wanted to perform, so I booked lessons with a performer herself, not a sort of Hindu sort of burlesque night, which there are many of, which is fine for that function, but if you want to perform, it's best to get lessons off a successful performer, which I did, and then get a portfolio of photographs done of you, preferably in your costume, so you can show people, promoters, what they're getting, and then just basically apply for jobs. That was back in my day, which was only sort of two and a bit years ago. But now there are a lot of newbie nights, as they're called, newbie being the new performers, where people can apply to perform and just give, an outline of what they do in their act and send the track over. And competitions are formed where is a mix of audience votes and a panel of experts, and that gives people exposure and a chance to perform, whereas they may not have it on a regular show. You will have your headline acts, which are generally the professional girls, a few mid-card performers who can be either amateur or professionals, and then you'll have newbie slots who are girls who have not done it for very long, and it's a chance for them to get stage experience. And also being backstage with pro girls is an experience within itself, because you learn off of them. You can ask them questions, you can see how they do things, and if you're having a problem with a bit of costume or an act, you can just say, how do you do that? I'm having trouble. So there are sort of routes of doing that. So
so it's not the big Simon Cowell, you rubbish off you get.
Hopefully not.
What ho?
I must ask you about your costumes, because you've obviously got this balloon popping costume.
Well,
which just sounds
have I?
Like that's going to be amazing. Well, you should have, maybe by your act. Do you make your own costumes? Can you buy the costumes? I'm told the feather fans are incredibly
expensive. Yes. I tend to I embellish my own stuff because I am extremely tight and renowned for it in both the burlesque and my private life. So I will do the cheapest option if it means I have to spend like 2 weeks sewing something together. So if you have the money, there are very talented corsetiers and costume makers that can do it absolutely for you. Or there are alternatives. Our good friend eBay is always there to help you on your way. I tend to make and embellish my stuff myself, because it gives me more control, and in my size there's not a lot out there, and also what I have in mind isn't always available off the peg.
Brilliant. So what we'll do, we're going to come back and talk to Mamma again, because I must ask you about Pat Butcher, Burley Queen, but we'll come back to that, because I've got to read everybody the little bit of blurb that goes with it, because it's fantastic.
What ho?
There we go. We have listened to the wonderful Frankie Carl and his orchestra, and that was the Carl. No, it wasn't. It was Gene Krupa and Jazz and Blues.
Where have you got that from?
That was
Carl
the one
Boogie?
before. Yeah. That was the one before. Now, I did mention that you had to unpeel said youngest son off the wall, and it reminded me, because youngest son and I watched the Despicable Me movies last night.
Oh, okay.
And it's the sort of thing the Minions do. So what's your Minions been up to while we've been broadcasting to the world?
Well, he'd got bored of the emulsioning, and I'd left the black gloss lying around, and so he was busy glossing the door, which was good, but I had to go around behind him and scoop up all the drips and the dodgy painting. Bless him. He's got bored now, so he's gone upstairs, which is probably not a bad thing. He's done well.
Right. Dare I walk out? Or is it all? Everything's fine. Nothing to see here.
Everything's fine. Middle son's redoing what he's done, but that's fine.
just nothing
it's
to
how
see
they
here.
learn. It's how they
Move
learn.
along.
And we're going along at a great pace, thanks to middle son. He's said, if I flunk at school, shall I be a painter and decorator? Was the conversation.
Always options. I'll be honest. I'm not very good at it, which is one of the reasons why you're doing it, because I can't maintain the concentration. It takes a lot of concentration, just painting, or else it starts dripping and running and just not looking nice.
No, I know. And I can get into the zone. I can put on my, play it again radio stations, and I can just get into the zone. And I find it quite therapeutic. But you can't stand it, can you?
What, painting?
Yeah.
I can generally do it for about an hour, maybe hour and a half, and I've learnt stop. Do something else and go back to it, or else I get bored and just slap it on, and then it bugs me so much because I look at it and go, that's wrong, and I end up having to do it all again.
Whereas Friday night you left with middle son to go somewhere, and then 2 hours later you came back and I was still chatting to my sister on the phone, glossing.
Yeah,
so,
we were doing scouty things.
Yeah, but we chatted away, so I had her on speakerphone while I was glossing, and that passed a good 2 and a bit hours.
Right, I'm guessing it's coming up to that time we should play a bit of Geraldo and his orchestra on our happy day. And we left I keep calling her Madam, your Mamma. Sorry, Mamma Jenufa. We're on tenterhooks because she's going to tell us about Pat Butcher.
Oh, have you not got to that bit yet?
No, she was going. She said you said you're going to give us the lowdown on Pat. I haven't watched TV. Well, we don't really. We have a TV now because the children like watching it, but we haven't had a telly for about 10 years or watched it properly.
Not properly.
So I've got no idea. There's probably an entire generation. I haven't got the faintest idea who this character Pat Butcher.
And we couldn't tell you what was on and when either, could we?
No, we're really not. We're really not that switched on, are we at all? Unfortunately,
no.
What ho?
And we're back with Mama, because I just wanted to squeeze in some of the characters that Mama does, and I'll just read this out because this has got to be one of my favourite. It's Pat Butcher, Burley Queen, and it's just a sort of press write-up. She's been a call girl, a gangster's mole. She's run the bookies, Kathy's Calf, the Queen Vic, minicab office and sold used cars, but now it's time for Pat to use her salacious charms and enter the world of burlesque. Move over, Dita, there's a new diva in town. The formidable Miss Butcher decides to enter a burlesque competition at the Queen Vic and shows the East End some old-time London pearly queen glamour. Pat knows more bumps and grinds than you can shake a jelly deal at. Performed to EastEnders theme tune and Papa. That just paints a fantastic picture.
There you go.
But as we were talking, you were saying that's one of your most requested performances.
Yes, Pat's is very popular. They like Pat. Everyone loves Pat. Everyone loves Pat before me, and I just jumped on the Pat bandwagon. That's why I did it.
So why do they go for Pat Butcher? Is it fun? Is it comedic?
Yes, it's all of my acts. Obviously I can't go on stage and be some beautiful ethereal dancer swan like other girls. Damn them. I have to go on and be me, and I intend to make people laugh. So Pat Butcher, I have the Pat Butcher wig, which is a 1980s headbanger with a trim, because I needed that height on top, and I just couldn't get it. So it's like a trimmed mullet. She's got a fur coat, blue eyeliner, frosted pink lipstick. I did used to have an all-in-one sort of Pelham dress, but I've now changed that to a mohair V-neck 80s jumper from an original Pat Butcher's pattern. Butcher pattern, printed by EastEnders.
Oh,
yes. I have to thank Ollie V's for that in Leighton Buzzard. It was incredible. So it did take me 2 years to knit.
Yeah. Well, you got there in the end.
So I now use that and just a rip-away polka dot skirt. So with a pineapple applique. So I think even within herself, and of course black stockings and white stilettos, as every Londoner should be with. So I think Pat within herself would work anyway, regardless of the act, to be fair. So everyone loves Pat, and the sort of twist at the end of Pat is that she uses her earrings as tassels.
Really?
So when I sort of do the big reveal and I look down and there's nothing there, I sort of scratch my head and think, where are my tassels? And sort of flick down, feel the old earrings and hook those on, and then give them a twirl with my earrings. So that's the joy of Pat. Which was people like Pat, and I'm also quite lewd, shall we say, in that act. I'm quite over the top and fun, very camp. So I think people like that. It can be a bit of a break from perhaps some of the straighter acts when I come in, and I do throw myself about in many various manners. So yeah, she's fun to do.
What ho!